welcome. And again, I would like to make a brief introduction to the following essay, which is continuing my recent cycle of essays. And this one is called The Grand Heresy. And the Grand Heresy of the title is what I call the metaphysical fire, or the metaphysical impulse, or what we may also term as sacred or spirit impulses, the non-material forces and impulses that come into our material domain. And really, the essay is saying that the metaphysical fire has always been recognized as some kind of heresy, and anything which is opposed to the dogmatic or orthodox or the dominant consensus narratives about the world around us and the hierarchy of forces, anything which opposes the dominant hierarchy is criticized, ostracized, and often labeled as a heresy. And we've seen that with many, let's say, non-mainstream ideologies and religious and spiritual traditions. And as we're entering a period of increased materialism, these materialistic forces are trying to close down what I call the metaphysical impulse. But the metaphysical impulses are not actually meta meaning beyond, because they're infused with all life, all existence, all materiality is also infused and integrated with the non-material sacred spirit, however you wish to name it, these forces. But there's been a deliberate kind of closing down of recognition of them. And I talked about this a few years ago also. There was an essay I put out called The Metaphysical Malaise, which was from my book, Healing the Wounded Mind. And the metaphysical malaise also talked about this period that we're in seems to be a deliberate closing down of the inner developmental impulses, or the recognition of these forces in our everyday lives. And so this is what the essay, The Grand Heresy, also talks about. It mentions that, like the writer Philip K. Dick has mentioned, that it's like we're living in a black iron prison. This heavy materialistic enclosure is trying to seal off and close off humanity from receiving sacred impulses from beyond this realm that infuse this realm. They spiritualize this realm, you could say. And so it's, this understanding is being ostracized. It's being closed down. And in a way, the metaphysical aspect of things is the new conspiracy theory. Anything which opposes the consensus dominant narrative is a conspiracy. It's a heresy. And they have to be closed down. And we're seeing that in a very, very powerful way in these current times. Ideas which oppose the consensus are conspiracies. Developmental ideas which oppose them are heresies. And so, as I talked about in an earlier book, Hijacking Reality, we have to become the new heretics if we wish to recognize these non-material developmental forces. And so we are in an age of the new heretics. And that's some of the subjects of this short essay. So saying that, I'll now leave you to listen or to read the following essay. Cheers and stay well. Be healthy, and as always, stay grounded. Metaphysics is not so much about that which is beyond physics, as this suggests that what is metaphysical lies only in the beyond zone and not within. The metaphysical fire
which has correspondence to origin, source, or the intelligence of all, is behind time, space, causation and manifestation, as well as being integrated as all those aspects. The metaphysical fire is as much beyond as it is within, for there is never a state that is void of it. Even the void itself is an expression of the metaphysical fire. In Kabbalistic terms, there are 4 levels of reality or emanations: the divine, spiritual, psychological, and physical. The divine corresponds to the source of all. The spiritual is non-being, or what modern science refers to as the quantum vacuum, zero-point field, the implicate order, or the void. The psychological is the first manifestation or being. Again, what science would call the cosmic background radiation or cosmic energy. And the physical is the world of matter, organisms, and of material sense. These are gradations of existence, with all higher emanations integrated or forming a part of all lower gradations. In other words, the physical realm of matter contains the psychological, the spiritual, and the divine, only that they are hidden to plain view or our perception. What this means is that the metaphysical impulse is existent, hidden within all states of existence, including our material realm. And this, for much of human history, has been a grand heresy. It is not necessary here to go through a historical stocktake of heresies. The list would be very long. Yet even a passing glance would pick up Gnostic trails, including Catharism, Manichaeism, mystical and occult streams, and almost anything that tackles the dogmatic control structures of orthodoxy. Heresy has been an easy and cheap strategy to attack and dismantle perceived threats against dominant narratives. Heresy has been the label that stigmatizes those people, thinking, beliefs, ideologies and movements, etc., that defy or go against the ruling narratives and control apparatus of the time. Heresies also help to point out to those with critical awareness that they live under a form of totalitarianism in some degree or other. Such socio-cultural control apparatuses seek to indoctrinate the populace within their domain into accepting specific thinking patterns. These patterns, naturally, are established to reinforce and support the incumbent power systems. The concept of heresy is brought out and utilized as a means of involving people, i.e. the public, within the controlling system. In an age of secularization, the controlling narrative has shifted from a top-down religious power structure into a technologically enforced cage of modernity. This is akin to sociologist Max Weber's notion of the iron cage, or more recently, to writer Philip K. Dick's vision of the black iron prison. The new secular materialism is bringing forth technocratic governance as a dominating narrative, and its affiliated religion of transhumanism is providing for the next priestly class of tech elites and billionaires. Together they establish what will strive to become the governing apparatus of technocracy, the modern totalitarian system masquerading as the new mode of 21st century global authority. And the notion of heresy has been modified from quasi-religious sectarian cults into conspiracy, The modern-day heretic is now the much-derided conspiracy theorist, or anyone who dares to defy the consensus narratives. From time immemorial, the dominant control apparatus has sought to centralize its power, and this means it must denounce any recognition of direct access to knowledge, which it views as an opposing power and thus a direct threat. Also, the external apparatus of the hierarchical control system cannot be reflected in a metaphysical hierarchical system. For this reason, the Christian Church did not wish for a hierarchy of angels to become recognized, although we have such people as Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite and Thomas Aquinas to thank for bringing these systems into human cognition and awareness. Material power structures do not care for metaphysical realities to come out of hiding. This is why such perspectives are branded as heretical and their proponents persecuted into silence or death. A metaphysical perspective is one that recognizes how all existence is integrated and unified, and that what lies without also lies within, for there is no exterior, only internal degrees or gradations of perceptual experience. The phenomenal universe of which we observe and participate within is a lesser reality, a reflection or gradation from the unifying greater reality. It is within this lesser reality that our current game of life is playing out. A modern heresy is that of the simulation hypothesis, which states that human existence is not in fact real, but being played out within a simulated structure or game. This is an update of the ancient Gnostic perspective, that humanity is living within a reality created not by source, but by a demiurge, a lesser god, and in this sense it is somewhat a false reality. Whether we are avatars or amnesiac souls within material bodies, the playground is relatively the same. What the simulation hypothesis does is merely update the scenario based on modern vocabulary and context. The Gnostics didn't have computers in their day, and hence the computer vocabulary. Likewise, the modern tech-Gnostics or neo-Gnostics don't wish to speculate within the context of Christian or any other religious spiritual theology. The overarching situation is one whereby seekers of each age are attempting to penetrate into the nature of the human condition vis-à-vis its correspondence with the true nature of reality. Modern terminology is now required to pinpoint the attention and focus of the modern orientated individual. You don't need to be religious in order to accept the greater reality. The Absolute is not a bearded bloke or a jealous deity of judgment. Belief is not necessary when it comes to approaching reality, for belief is merely an early stage upon the path of realization. You only need an urge to wander, an inner pull to know, and the will to seek. The metaphysical fire wishes to be known, and you only need to want to know it too. If we can speak of anything, we can call it a law of resonance. The knower and the known must frequent the same frequency for there to be a correspondence. This is the field where the meeting has to take place, a field of frequency as well as a zone of correspondence. As the Persian mystic poet Jalaluddin Rumi wrote, quote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the doorsill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. This field exists beyond our localized ideas and morality codes. The physical, sensory world is too full of the lower vibrations, too full to talk about, and this can block the perceptive senses. The ideas and language of the material realm have no meaning within the frequency field that provides the doorsill where the two worlds touch. Yet the seeker must resist being pulled back into the denser senses and lower frequency of the physical realm. Don't go back to sleep. Rumi and many others like him clothed themselves within the robes of their time, be it Islam or any other social, cultural, religious context that was necessary to operate within. The metaphysical impulse knows how to roam unimpeded within the context and circumstances of the time. Its core frequency is not of this realm, yet it acts through operations or manifestations that are of the physical domain. Religious and spiritual vehicles have been utilized as carriers for these manifestations, yet they are certainly not the only means. It also depends upon what the main mediums are at the time with any specific culture. These are often appropriated for maximum dispersal. Yet many more mediums, largely unsuspected, are simultaneously utilized for this purpose. The heretics are the visible ones. The grand heresy remains hidden within and operates largely without hindrance. And the grand heresy of the metaphysical fire still rages in our times. Unfortunately, most people remain oblivious to this. They have fallen asleep amongst the meadows of attractive flowers and amid the scents that tempt the senses. However, an odd and troublesome wind is now blowing through those meadows and disturbing people's sleep. The flowery meadows are not so cozy anymore, as an ill wind is stirring those who slumber and arousing people through discomfort and disarray. Uncertainty looms everywhere. The facades of normalcy are slipping down, and the trusted institutions of this reality are showing their false faces. The metaphysical fire is beginning to burn away the outer paintwork, showing the rotten wood underneath. The gatekeepers of stolen power are attempting to cover up the sun by spraying their chemical clouds, yet still the metaphysical fire comes through. And it is becoming fiery now. It is coming close to another round of its cycle. Flares, outbursts and eruptions will soon be blasting towards our physical sphere as we cling to its surface like a receiving, transmitting membrane. And it shall all be a matter of frequency. As the great inventor and receiver Nikola Tesla said, quote, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency and vibration." End quote. Any vibrational frequency can create as well as destroy, depending upon the corresponding frequency of the receiver. The grand heresy is arising to meet the dogmatic destroyer. As the metaphysical fire comes to light, and to a light, our domain, we shall have the fire to guide us or to burn us. No hazmat suits will protect the unprepared. It shall all be a question of perception. Is the heresy a greater truth? Or do the dominant consensus narratives speak the truth to us? As above, so below, all is in correspondence. Hiding within the shadowy rock of Plato's cave will not shield you from the penetrating fire. It is only the metaphysical fire that does not burn. Instead, it fills the cells of the body with a heightened, finer energy and renews the human vessel. The time is approaching where we shall need to march forward and go forth upon a new path. We can choose to stay within the rocky, shadowy cave, or we can walk lighter upon the sunlit path. No amount of machinery will lighten the human vessel. It will only serve to automate it further and close down its receptors. Like any fuel cell, it will eventually wind down to a stop if it cannot be recharged. The devolutionary path is strewn full of those objects that came to their final stop when the fuel cell ran dry. It was and remains a closed pathway. You only get so far, despite the shiny promises offered it at the beginning. You can take the high road, or you can take the low road. According to Celtic legend, if someone dies in a foreign land, their spirit will travel back to their homeland by the low road, which is known as the route for the souls of the dead. However, the person who takes the high road may arrive afterwards, yet they retain their life. This legend implies that those who accept the high road will continue upon the path of the living, whilst those who take the low road will take their leave of this world and no doubt be obliged to return again, like a Groundhog Day for the soul. In these coming years, the metaphysical fire shall be burning stronger against the structures of our physical world. Taking refuge in ignorance, rage, or revenge will not align the individual's receptors towards recalibration. Trust in the human spirit will be a first step. Aligning with the resonance of the human heart shall be the second. Being receptive and allowing a new frequency of spirit to come through may be the third. In all this, the greatest barrier and impediment is fear. As circumstances become increasingly polarized, the choices of fear or revelation shall become ever more visible. The dark cave is the refuge of the fearful. The sunlit path is the abode for the revelers of the revealed.